What's up, guys? In this video, we have put together the most impactful 15 minutes of a keynote that I just did at GymCon on the 5 principles of management, which is really the 5 principles that I have put together that I've used to grow and scale the 3 businesses that I did and achieve a $100 million net worth by the age of 29. And these principles are still what I use today to scale acquisition.com portfolio companies.
What I want to do today is talk about how to get other people to do stuff like make you money. So these are the principles, like I said, that we have used to build Gym Launch, Prestige Labs, and now acquisition.com, and all of the portfolio companies within it. So what is it that makes a small business into a big business, right? It's really something quite boring, which I call the 5 principles of management. Let me tell you why this is important. The average coach on a sports team actually has a 30% variation on team success. Ironically, the average CEO has almost the same influence on a business. And I know this because I lived it. So I want to give you guys a little bit of context as to why I actually am so passionate about this stuff. So my first job out of college was actually at 24 Hour Fitness. Never had sold before, literally just fresh out of college, understood exercise, had lost a bunch of weight myself, helped people on the side. And I had a boss, and his name was Mike. And Mike was the manager of that 24 Hour Fitness. And Mike, I would say, is the reason that I did not quit sales. Why? Mike was a great communicator. He was predictable, meaning like he was at work every day. He showed up with enthusiasm. He was excited. He was constantly encouraging. And at the end of the day, he made a really hard job fun. Not Mike came in. He was unpredictable. And then he was fear-based. When I knew that he was going to be the one there for a long period of time, I was like, well, I'm clearly going to leave. So I stopped selling people into my roster at 24. And I remember he said to me one day, I remember this clear as day, he was like, Layla, if you don't hit quota this month, I am going to run you over with my truck, back up, run you over again, and light you on fire. Yeah, I was like, fuck off. And he made a really hard job freaking horrible. We went from breaking records to actually like mediocre. Like we fell below even the average of a location. And all the top trainers, including myself, left. And this experience is what put me on a mission to create a business where people actually genuinely loved working, because I myself understood the difference of what it's like to genuinely love working somewhere versus be somewhere where you hate it and you dread it and you cry in your car on the way to work every day. These are the 5 that I have used in every business that I have grown, and in all the businesses that we advise, I teach them these things. Let's talk about the first piece that goes into this. It is keeping expectations clear. Expectations are the verbalization of how someone should act or something should be done. But without properly defined expectations or spoken expectations, nobody understands how to play or win the game. And so what you have to understand is that even if somebody has experience and you expect them to come in and understand, it's like, well, this is so obvious. You're a trainer. It's so obvious you're a coach. You have to state the obvious. And I think that's where most people miss, is that expectations, honestly, most of the time, are saying the shit that you're like, I think this is completely obvious. But they don't know. Because where they were, it might have been completely different. Core values. Start here. This is the highest level of expectations that you could set with anybody on your team. If you actually live and die by the values that you set with the organization, it's where everything else stems from. They are the root beliefs that the organization operates from. So they are the principal perspectives that guide the organization's behavior. If you lead with values, you can get people to adhere to 99% of what you need them to, right? So say speed is king is your value, right? So do I need to have a set of rules that says clock in every day by 8 a.m. sharp, respond to every teammate within 120 seconds, respond to every lead within 60 seconds? Instead of saying all those rules, you set the one thing, which is the value, which is speed is king. So we covered expectations. Let's move on to the second one. Accountability is the quality or state of being responsible to one's obligations. It means holding them responsible for their actions and results. As a person who manages people, it is your job to let people know, let your direct reports know, let your team know how they are doing in relation to how they are expected to be doing. In fact, it is the number one job of the CEO and of the founder. Because what you do is you don't delegate accountability. You disseminate it down. Those people right below you, you hold them the most accountable so that then it disseminates down from them into the rest of the team. And it took me 3 years to figure that out, because what I did was that I was I didn't understand that it's really not CEO, it is Chief Accountability Officer. You are the one that holds the standards for the whole organization, and the way that you do that so that everyone else sees is how you hold your leaders responsible. Even if it's just one person with you, you need to pour all your energy into that person so that they can disseminate it down to everybody else. When we ran Gym Launch in 2018, we had 120 full-time employees. And at that point in time, I didn't really understand the accountability piece. I didn't repeat things enough. I delegated the responsibility of accountability to the leadership team. And I didn't really fully understand how important it was. And because of that, we had really low effectiveness of the team. And it felt really bad. In fact, there was a day when Alex and I were on a walk and we looked at like the bank account or something. And we were like, holy shit, we just had the biggest month ever. I think it was like $4.5 million. And we were like, I can't believe that. I'm like 24. We just made $4.5 million in 1 month. Like, that's insane. Remember, I looked at him and I was like, I fucking hate this. I feel like a third of the team is not doing anything. I don't know what to do. So I really sought out to understood what I was doing wrong, and that was when it all came back to accountability. And what I realized is that I just wasn't holding people accountable on the team. I wasn't telling them what they needed to do. I wasn't setting expectations. I was behind their back thinking about how shitty they were doing, but not really telling them well enough to their face. And so I started doing it. I made a commitment. I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore because I was too nice. I was like too accepting. I was too nice. I didn't set the standards high enough. And so finally, when I turned that around, we went from 120 full-time employees to 75. Why? Because when you start doing that, you realize the people that have just been skating by the whole time. And we held the same revenue. Did that suck? Yeah, it fucking blew. It was like literally the lowest of my career because once I started holding people accountable, people got pissed, people got mad, people didn't like what we were doing, they felt like the company was changing, they felt like things were like, and it was all because I was trying to raise everyone else up, and I made them aware of it. I was like, listen, I've been fucking up, I haven't been holding you guys accountable. But some people joined that team because they liked that. They didn't like being held accountable. But I can tell you it was the best thing we ever did for the business. What I realized is this, is that accountability is essentially the glue between the commitment someone makes and the result you get. And without it, the two are divorced from each other, and you see all these people doing things, and it creates no result. And so the question is, how do you hold someone accountable? Accountability is an expectation tied to a measurement, and the only thing that can amplify it is feedback. Expectations are in the form of their job description, the core values of the company, and the expectations you set for them. Now I'm going to measure that with scorecards, with KPIs I tie to that person's role. And then the last piece, that is the one that can either make this better or worse, is feedback. When am I telling them how they're doing with the measurements that are tied to the expectations? So the more communication you have with somebody on your team about how they are doing, the more accountable they are held. All right, so we covered expectations, we've covered accountability. Now we want to cover communication. Good communication within a company is a combination of trading your assumptions for curiosity and actively listening to others on the team. Good communication is the bridge between ignorance and understanding. So if somebody, you tell them something and they still don't change their behavior, you have not communicated well. So why should you care? I have literally never had anybody tell me that they have quit a job because the boss has over-communicated. So it's your job as a leader to set the tone for what communication really is. Because the way that people perceive you from your communication skills is directly correlated with how much people like and trust you. And so generally speaking, in order to be an effective leader, you want to be liked and trusted. There are 4 keys to success in communication. There is energy, engagement, emotional control, and exploration. Okay, so energy is the number of exchanges that you have with your team, both verbal and nonverbal. The second is engagement, which is the distribution of energy amongst the team. And then there's emotional control. Emotional control is just how well we can manage and control our emotions more precisely and our emotional reactions to other people on the team. Teams that stayed calm and neutral when receiving communication, right, and not having some big emotional reaction, were considered to have higher emotional control. And then lastly is exploration, the communication that teammates engage in outside of their core team. The more congealed they are, the more that they understand what each other do and they talk to each other, the better the communication. So, what does good communication look like? This is it. It is energy times engagement added to emotional control times exploration. Now we've got cadence. The fourth piece in the principles is how often regularly scheduled meetings happen in your business. Think of it like it's a heartbeat for your team, okay? Without it, it's really hard to know how healthy the team is. Reliable meeting cadences can really help eliminate uncertainty and promote security and creativity in your business. If done well, I think a lot of people do enjoy it. Now, if you feel like you're constantly in a reactive mode, you're never able to get ahead, you're frustrated that you and your team aren't on the same page, you're in the dark about the real problems in your own business, and you're confused as to what everyone does with their fucking time, and you're anxious that things don't move fast enough, then this is probably for you, and I think it's worth listening. There are 3 elements of a successful meeting cadence: purpose, pulse, and preparation. Pulse is the cadence that determines if meetings are productive or pointless. How do you determine the pulse? Activity times size. So how much activity you have in your company. Like, are we rolling something new out? High activity. Are we starting a new marketing campaign? High activity. Are we doing not jack shit new at all? Low activity. Size of the company. Are you guys going to have the same amount of meetings as like me at acquisition.com or like Gym Launch? No. The second is purpose. The purpose of a meeting cadence is the reason for why each meeting individually exists. Is it strategic or is it tactical? Tactical is it's a meeting focused on the doing versus strategic, the why, and it's long-term focused. Now, the last piece that really makes these 2 things effective is preparation. Preparation is the process of making a meeting useful, and it is having the right information, the right people, and the right agenda. What information should the attendees have ahead of time in order to achieve the purpose of the meeting? The second is what people should attend in order to achieve the purpose of the meeting. One is a contributor. Those are people that have information that would be useful to let the decision makers know of so they can make the right decision. And then lastly, it's just a simple agenda, which is like what needs to be discussed or shared to achieve the purpose of the meeting. The last piece in terms of the 5 principles of management is recognition. Recognition is the acknowledgement of a person or team's behavior that supports the organization's goals and values. Right. Recognition reinforces behavior. If you want someone to do more of something, recognize them for it. There are 4 pieces to recognition. There's really the what, the who, the how, and the when. The when. When are you going to recognize somebody? One would be when someone completes a goal. The second is effort-based. So a recognition of an employee whose behavior is most likely to drive results. The third is milestone-based. Okay, so this one is probably one of the easiest ones. It's like your first day on the job, 90 days with the company, you're off like your probationary period. It could be a yearly anniversary, a birthday. And then lastly is value, which is recognition of behavior that exemplifies a core value in the company. The second is the who. Can you recognize their behavior in front of the entire team, which is even more powerful because social recognition is more powerful than individual. And you know what's even more powerful than that in most companies is that peer-to-peer recognition. And then there's the what. There is formal recognition and there is spontaneous recognition. Formal recognition is the predetermined and predictable way to acknowledge behavior and accomplishments in a company. That might be yearly, you've got MVP of the year. It might be quarterly, you have quarterly reviews, attainment of a goal. We do a thing at Gym Launch called the Jedi Award. It might be monthly, employee of the month. Spontaneous recognition is a flexible and timely method to positively acknowledge behavior and accomplishments. It looks like shout outs. It could be a handwritten card. It could be a wow gift. It could be like someone did something fucking awesome, I'm gonna send them flowers right now. Recency beats intensity. When you are recognizing someone, a high five is more powerful than telling them they did a good job 10 minutes later. This drives behavior more than any compensation plan. Why? Because compensation is so fucking delayed that our brains can't even associate what behavior has driven it. And then there's the how. You know, how are we doing those things? Just a couple of examples of how you can actually recognize your team tactically. There's written, verbal, and reward-based recognition, okay? Written, company newsletter. Verbally, shouting them out on a meeting, telling them in their one-on-ones, and then there's reward. You could plan an activity for them. And so the ideal scene is that you start small and you add in variety. That was all 5, okay? So what did we cover? How to set clear expectations, how to hold people accountable, how to communicate effectively, how to not set a totally boring communication cadence, and how to deploy recognition. What I would love for you guys to do is pick one of these things, whatever you felt like after listening to resonated with you as being the one that you need the more of in your business, and that be the one takeaway you have from this talk. If you try to do all of this is way too much fucking shit. Takes way too long. But if you can do one thing when you walk away, I think that's a gift we can all give ourselves. Thank you guys for your time.